Could we see more general managers fired than head coaches? We're breaking down that and more today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase.
Joe, aesthetically, top 3 game of the season, that's my first take. Snow game, Steelers, Browns, aesthetics in the snow.
I loved it.
I think that'll be one of the 3 most visually appealing games that we will watch all year.
What a great way to get the weather slate started. AFC North, Thursday night, snow in Cleveland. It's beautiful, man. It's a fun time of year. You know what hit me, though, and I don't take credit for this. I was looking at the college football playoffs. Some of these southeastern teams going to have to go up north, play a little football in late in the year. It's going to be interesting.
Somebody might have to go to, like, Boise.
Boy, could you imagine? You're Alabama or something like that. Got to go up there and play in Boise.
A little culture shock.
Boy,
you won't get Michigan. Oregon would be an interesting place to have to go play.
Right.
In December.
Yeah. Something we've never really seen in college football, at least.
Right.
So get ready, Georgia.
Hey, you know what it's good for, though? It's good for the draft evaluation process.
Yes.
There's like Jameis Winston, that was his first game starting in sub 40-degree temperatures.
Looked like he had a great time.
Ever. Right? And like to get a couple of those games for some big time prospects that play in like the places of the country where it's warm all year round, so they just do 7-on-7 stuff in the winter and don't get exposed to it. Like, I think that's a nice subplot as we press forward with the new ramifications of college football.
Nice win for the Browns last night.
Great
All right, let's get into it. Takes on Takes, a weekly episode where you submit your takes. We give you takes on your takes. Today, first one, or I guess second one formally, from Ocean, who says, more general managers will be fired than head coaches this cycle. A little bonus take, Louis Riddick will fill an open GM position.
I don't think he will.
I don't think he will either, but the meat here is if more GMs get fired than head coaches. Here's where I'm at on this. We're already behind the 8 ball, right? We've already got 2 head coaches fired and 1 general manager. Biggie Lewis is not getting fired.
Right.
So we got to be +2 the rest of the way. And I look, at least in my perspective, as the head coaching vacancies, and I'll be curious if you wanted to add to this list. Okay. Jets, Saints, Cowboys, Jaguars, Bears. I think those are your locks. I think you have at least 5.
Okay.
And then I'm keeping an eye on the Raiders and Giants. But here's another problem. If the Cowboys are a team that fires their head coach, which we anticipate, guess what's not getting fired?
They're not getting a new general manager, yeah.
We're going to go +3 on general managers over head coaches?
I'm trying to think of like coaches that would even get fired or like GMs that would even get fired at this stage. Like,
I have a short list. Would you like to hear my short list? It'd be weird if you didn't say yes.
Go ahead.
My short list. Well, Joe Douglas, we already know about. And I'm not even sure about any of these Kyle Krabs. Andrew Berry in Cleveland.
Yep.
Trent Baalke in Jacksonville.
Yep.
Tom Telesco in Vegas.
No.
I know listen, hear me out. I said it's, I didn't say I was totally confident, but come on. Tom Brady coming into town. I know there's cash flow things and all that, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
And Joe Shane with the Giants. Who else are you adding to the list, man?
Yeah. I mean, I think if Miami falls completely off the wagon, maybe there's a conversation for Chris Greer. who's been in that role since 19 as the unquestioned executive. They kind of botched some key personnel spots.
They've fallen off the wagon. They're playing better on defense. Tua is back. They're going to be.
I would be inclined to think they'll be competitive the rest of the way and make a push for 500 and a winning record. But I'm just saying, like, if they end up not doing that and they finish 6-11, I think that there'd be some consideration there.
Are they going to John Schneider? Are they going to do that in Seattle?
No, I don't think so.
Is it going to be Chris Ballard? Go?
Ballard might go. That's not a bad call.
If it's Ballard, then it's Steichen too. And that doesn't, again, we're trying to get to a scenario where there's more general managers.
Yeah, I'm passing on this take. Can we also, like, I love Louis Riddick. I think he's got a great mind for the game. But Louis Riddick kind of feels like everybody's favorite idea that's more of an idea than an actual. Like, the pathway for people in a position of a Louis at this stage has been Mike Mayock to go have Gruden stick his hand up his rear end and puppet him in Las Vegas.
Have you listened to some of Mayock's comments since then? I love it, man. He talks about the Pro Bowlers that he's drafted and stuff.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I think Mike, I don't know if he'll get another shot, but
I don't think
it wasn't a clown show. It was not a clown show, dude. It wasn't Mayock's problem.
But like Lewis hasn't been in a team environment for over a decade now. So it's like, is the appeal of Lewis just he has that background and we hear him talk on a weekly basis in season, so everybody understands how great of a mind he has. Like, and I'm not questioning whether, like, I love Lewis. I think he's got a great eye for the game. But why is he's just kind of become like an urban legend GM candidate, it feels like, for me.
Yeah, I agree with you on both fronts. I don't think we come close on this general manager thing. And Ocean, if you are right about this, please, this is spike it hard, man. I don't see it. Kennedy says this year's Super Bowl will include 2 teams without a Super Bowl appearance in at least a decade. And so
I thought he was going to.
So the AFC possibilities are the Ravens, Steelers, Bills, Texans, Chargers. NFC would be Cardinals, Lions, Packers, Vikings, and Washington. Here's the thing, man, right? We got to stop overlooking the Chiefs. People forget that last year, Kyle Krabs, this team went 3-5 in an 8-game stretch and then did the whole thing that people said, well, let's make them go on the road. They said, bet. We'll go to Buffalo, we'll go to Baltimore, we'll go to Super Bowl, and we'll win that too. Like, chill out, man. The slaying of the Chiefs is out of control right now because they've been shaky and lost to the Bills. Come on, dude. They were potentially arguably worse last year with their 3-5 stretch. They're 11-6. We got to stop burying the Chiefs right now because it's going to get your expectations in a bad place, and then you're going to be disappointed when they do it again.
I think Detroit goes.
Yeah, but they said 2. I think Detroit gets it. I'd be stunned if it wasn't Detroit.
Okay.
But I don't know about the AFC. I don't know. I'm not ready to sit here.
I'm not touching that yet.
I'm not touching that either. So we are aligned there. All right, we got a bunch more coming up the other side of it. If you want to talk 2025 NFL draft, the takes abound on the other side of it. So be sure to stick with us. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And folks, I couldn't be more thankful for my wife. She's incredible, does a lot for our family, loving, devoted to me and our kids. And this month is all about gratitude. And there's another person we don't get to thank enough, ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying to do our best and make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that isn't always easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. Folks, maybe you're thinking of starting therapy. If you are, then give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do is fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. And look, therapy's not just for people who've experienced major trauma. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Folks, there's nothing like being at the stadium, taking in these games. Could you imagine being a fan and getting a chance to go to some of these weather games late in the season, Or maybe there's a nice climate-controlled environment that you want to go see a bunch of touchdowns scored. There's nothing like being in the stands. And look, if you want to be there, you got to get the Game Time app. Game Time is the fast and easy way to purchase tickets for not only sports, but music, comedy, and theater events near you. The app is awesome. It's easy to navigate. They give you a picture from your seat. They give you flash deals. They specialize in last-minute tickets. I mean, simply put, it takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
We got next.
Vontel came in at the buzzer, and I kind of like what he did here. Vontel says the Texas Longhorns will have the most players drafted in the first round in next year's draft. Now, this is entirely a you question, but is there a path to this?
Right,
both tackles, right?
I wasn't mentally prepared to do
Bond.
this.
Who else they got our first round guys?
So it'll be Kelvin Banks, potentially Cameron Williams, the right tackle if he comes out, Isaiah Bond at wide receiver. Maybe Jahdae Barron, who's a corner safety. Kind of reminds me like Julian Love. Kind of paint the picture of like a player when like Love coming out of Notre Dame and plays in the slot. He's playing outside more this year. I have him as like a top 50 player. It won't be Quinn Ewers, I can tell you that. So you're looking at probably, I'd set the over under at 3.5.
That doesn't feel like enough.
I don't think it's enough either. Let's think about Georgia. Let me pull
Walker, Starks, Michael Williams, right? The edge. People talk about him.
So Malachi Starks, Michael Williams, the edge. They've got, I think Carson Beck has not had a good year, but I think he has a better case to be drafted in the first round than Quinn Ewers does.
Yeah.
You know who else has a lot of talent?
Who's that?
Michigan.
Get those two defensive tackles that I would take in the first round.
Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham.
Tight end, Will Johnson. There's four for sure.
Colston Loveland. Yeah, I would fade this. I think Alabama's got a couple risers too.
Overton.
I know there's Overton. There's a lot of people that are high on Jihad Campbell, their linebacker too, who can kind of play up on the edge a little bit. So Alabama would have potentially candidates would be Jihad Campbell, LT Overton. Maybe from a guard perspective, Tyler Booker, based on if a team drafts by need. Maybe Jalen Milroe if he stays hot and puts it together down the stretch.
It feels like if a team can get four, that's gonna be enough, right?
Probably.
But I don't know. I don't see it with Texas, man. I think they might only have three. All right, next one here comes from Bill, and Bill's got like a smorgasbord of NFL draft topics.
Okay.
So let's work through this. Take one is wide receiver is the deepest position top to bottom. You feel that way?
Top to bottom, probably. Like, I think it's the spot you could look at the 15th best player at the position and feel like it's the best version of a prospect relative to the 15th best player at quarterback, running back, tight end, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, corner, safety. Probably.
Running back and tight end have the most day one starters in terms of talent level. Heard a lot about these running backs.
Okay, now I'm going to have to pull up the board here. So you obviously have Ashton Genty. You have Omarion Hampton. I think those guys are plug and play. I think Caleb Johnson from Iowa is a really good wide zone candidate. Quinshaw Judkins, probably. Those are my top 5 guys. I gave you all 5, right? Oh, Nick Singleton. I didn't mention Nick Singleton, who's really good in the passing game. Some kind of questionable vision stuff with him. Then you have Travion Henderson, Kyle Mullings from Michigan, who just got added to the Senior Bowl yesterday. I think you probably have 5 or 6. Travion Henderson, Ohio State.
This is that's a healthy amount.
It's a pretty healthy group, yeah.
Edge has the best talent at the top, but weak at the end.
No, I actually think there's some nice
corner.
I think there's some nice day 2 talent at edge in this year's class. Just guys that don't get a lot of buzz.
In my somewhat educated opinion, I feel like maybe the top names that I'm seeing are at corner. The best, I think if you think Travis Hunter and Will Johnson versus Abdul Carter and Jalen Walker, I'm taking the corners. Yeah, I'm taking the corners. I think the corners have better talent at the top.
I think the corners have better talent at the top too.
Yeah,
and I think the edge group has better day 2 depth than what it gets credit for.
And then lastly, they say O-line and quarterback are the weakest of all positions.
Quarterback.
Yeah. I would agree.
There's some college tackles who will play guard that I like.
Yeah. All right. Michael says the 2025 NFL draft, when it's all said and done, will be one of the weakest drafts with top-end talent and will have teams not wanting to trade up. But for draft needs more than talent because there won't be any top 10 first-round grades on players. There won't be 10 first-round grades on players. Basically just
10. There won't be 10 first-round grades?
Yeah. How many you got? You got more than 10?
I've done about 60 formal write-ups right now.
Yeah.
The official number of first-round grades that I have is 13.
I would be surprised if you're 60 players in. I'd be unlikely that you have another first-round grade, right?
No, because I've done some Senior Bowl guys that have, I just did Maxon Hook, the safety from Toledo yesterday. So I haven't been pouring through. I have not done a single quarterback yet.
I'm looking at my current board. Yeah, I see 11 first-round grades real easy. Yeah, I think that's. I don't love this draft class, but I don't hate it like that.
I've only done a handful of tackles. I've done none of the top tackles.
Offensive tackles.
Yeah,
you might not get any there. Well, we'll see.
Hold on, no, you don't think I'm gonna get? I did Will Campbell, but he's great as a guard. And Kelvin Banks will probably carry a late one. Don't draft him in the top 10.
See how it goes. Michael says Jim Harbaugh will draft over 1.5 Wolverines in the 2025 draft. Tight end is commonly linked to them in the 20s.
Maybe.
I mean, yeah, Kenneth, they could use the defensive tackle and a tight end, and I can understand why you would say there's those available.
I don't think either one of those players will be on the board for them, though. I don't think Kenneth Grant or Mason Graham will be on the board for the Chargers.
I tend to agree with you. So that if they were to take that tight end, there's probably some other guy the rest of the way that they would get to. That's a low bar to clear. 2.
So Michigan has a couple day 2, early day 3 edge types. Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore. I think maybe that's your pathway for them to get a second guy.
I think it'll happen. August says it's still extremely early, but within 4 years, we will view the Patriots' decision to trade back with the Chargers, allowing them to draft Ladd McConkey, with the Patriots taking Jalen Polk 3 picks later as one of the biggest draft day blunders in Elliott Wolf's career.
I wasn't super high on Jalen Polk coming out of Washington. I like Ladd. It's still early for both of these guys, right? Yeah, Polk went at 37 in a good wide receiver class. There'd have been other names I would have. I wonder if they had somebody else that they had their eyes on and got jumped for. I wonder if that's well documented. August might know. August is a Patriots fan.
It would be Coleman or Leggett, right? Those would be the 2 guys that they couldn't get.
I think that will end up like hindsight Patriots fans looking at this iteration and build that they are given. I think they will look back with criticism at that decision for sure.
Yeah, I think early on it's starting to look that way. Lad feels like a Patriot, and he's not. He's a Charger and leading that team in receiving, and the future looks bright. I don't like to take what did Harbaugh call him Steve Smith. We can miss me with that.
Yeah,
but
no, I'm all the way on.
He can still be a good player and not be Steve Smith, but yeah, that's such a unique player to invoke. All right, on the other side of it, we got some more Patriots discussion. We got a really interesting cap idea and more. So stick with us, folks. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties, you can also use your points to book fitness studio classes. Redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure you use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points with your rent payments today.
Joe, I just sent you in the chat a Jalen Polk stat. If you'd like to open it up.
This is a graph.
The graphic is yards per route run against single high and two high coverage in weeks 1 through 11.
Yikes!
The lowest rated player against both 1 high and 2 high coverages in yards per route run this season is Jalen Polk.
Yeah, comfortably. That's not good.
Like
not
in
good.
A stratosphere of his own, below Johnny Munt, Van Jefferson. Who are some of the other names that really pop here? As like, ooh, we're ranked below that guy.
Jonathan Mingo.
Jalen Tolbert, Gabe Davis. Poor Gabe catching strays.
Gabe. Never saw it coming.
Jonathan Mingo. Got traded for a 4. Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
All right.
All right. Mandy says the Patriots will finish the season with a better record than the Jets. Rodgers will retire due to an injury, and the Jets draft a quarterback in 2025.
So they want the Patriots to finish with a better record than the Jets.
Yeah. So what are they? They're 1 win back right now, right?
I believe they're both 3-8. They're both 3-8 right now.
Oh, we're tied up, baby. Let's go.
All right, so let's do the thing. You want to do the thing?
Let's do the thing.
Patriots, their 2 games before the bye are at Miami and home against the Colts.
I don't know that they win either one of those games, you know?
Okay. Coming out of the bye, they're at Arizona and at Buffalo.
I don't like those at all.
And then they finish their last 2 are home against the Chargers or home against the Bills.
Okay, at best 1 win is coming for the Patriots, right?
I'm not going to say. I think at best 2 wins. I think the best they will finish is 5-12.
Okay, I agree with you.
The New York Jets. They're on their bye this week. Coming out of their bye this week, they're home against the Seahawks on December 1st. Then they have 2 road trips to the state of Florida, at Miami and at Jacksonville.
We can win one of those 3, right?
Yeah, I'll take one of those 3.
Yeah, all right.
And then they finish home against the Rams, at Bills, and home against the Dolphins.
There's a path for this.
There's a
I think they're at best 5 as well.
Especially if Rodgers gets hurt.
Does that make them worse? Are we sure Tyrod doesn't come in and just play better football?
I think he'll play better, like authentic, structured football, but they don't have a structure to their offense. So it's like it's a rudderless ship either way. I think Tyrod would give you more stable play, but everything's been optimized for Aaron. right? For better or for worse. So I think if you put somebody else in and it's not optimized for him, and Nathaniel Hackett's calling plays for Tyrod Taylor with what the rest of this looks like right now, I don't see how that's better.
Vibes are not good.
Vibes are not good.
Like what's the rallying cry with a bunch of veterans that came there to win and aren't, like, everyone's fired already. Vibes are bad. Adam says, this is interesting. I don't know that I like it, but it's at least interesting. Adam says, my take is that teams should be encouraged to draft and develop players, and they should be helped by being given cap relief only for when players drafted re-signed by the same team. Here's the example. The Dolphins lost Hunt and Wilkins in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Had the Finns paid Hunt $100 million over 5 years, they would then only be charged 75% against the cap, as this is a retained player. He says, one of the things I love about the NFL is drafting and developing players.
So who would take exception to this? I'm trying to think of who would be the party that stands to gain the least out of this.
The owners, because they're actually paying more for players than what the salary cap says, right? They're going to, for players they re-sign that they drafted, would be 25%.
And the owners would never sign off on this.
Would the players like this, though? Don't you think that some players like that opportunity to go somewhere else, right? Like you get drafted and you don't get to pick that team, but when you get a chance to pick that team,
yeah, but you don't have to re-sign.
You don't have to.
Like you still have the open market.
You're right. You're right.
Go
right, but don't you think that this potentially then invites a bit of an overpayment? Like you would pay more. I guess it potentially be good for the players because it's the team can then have more flexibility with how they expense the deal against the cap.
The teams would get. I feel like the teams would get bent over on this because every negotiation for a contract re-signing, if you're going to come to me, if I just finished my third year and I'm Jamar Chase, right? Wind the clocks back. And Jamar Chase wants a new contract from the Bengals with a commitment. And I know how much you have to spend for it to be equal to the salary cap ramifications if I sign somewhere else. Would you not be leveraging that?
Yeah.
To say you got 25% discount.
Yeah.
So I want to see, I don't want to just sign for $30 million and take the lead spot and do you a favor.
Kyle, don't you feel like the draft and develop, like the retainment of players issue isn't really about the open market? It's more about lack of stability within the teams that draft these players, right? The coaches and GMs get fired, and they're not able to see through the vision of what they had in mind when they drafted the player. I think if we want to find ways to have teams draft and develop more often, I think it's probably that more than it is anything structurally with how contracts are expensive.
I would be inclined to agree. I think there's a lot of incontinuity that makes it very difficult to have an environment where you, through multiple life cycles and multiple sets of rookie contracts, be able to have visions on who to pay and who not to pay and what we're looking for. And we're going to draft you 2 years in advance for you to groom for this role because we're going to let this guy go and let you play here. And then there's also, because of the salary cap, like teams are going to have different ideologies of just they're not going to retain everybody. Like there's going to be a point probably 2 years from now where like Detroit's going to have some really good players that end up walking because they have put their flags in the ground and prioritized their big contracts. And as they add more talent to try to stock up, the other side of that is going to be talent leaves. That's where like the example was Miami. Well, think about those 2020 and 2021 draft classes for Miami. They had 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, and then the following year they had 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and 2 third-round picks, but they used one of the 3s to trade up for earlier in the 2. So it's like that's like 20% of your roster.
Yeah.
On top 100 picks in 2 years.
Yeah. Marcos coming in hot, baby.
Okay.
Jonnu Smith. Heard of this guy? Tight end, Dolphins. Despite the low sample size, is already a top 3 tight end in the history of the Miami Dolphins.
What's this person's name?
Marcos.
How old do you think Marcos is?
Dude, I don't know. I would assume not very old. If is his like did he start watching the Dolphins recently and like, wow, this guy's better than Durham Smythe. This is the best tight end we've ever had. Because I remember Randy McMichael.
McMichael was a baller.
That's the Mount Rushmore of tight ends for Miami starts with Randy McMichael. But he said top 3, so we got to get 2 more that are better.
Jim Mandich.
That's not I don't have any commentary to offer there.
Bruce Hardy.
What about Charles Clay?
Keith Jackson. Keith Jackson was a 3-time Pro Bowler and signed here and then posted like 15 touchdowns in 3 years. Or 16 touchdowns in 3 years. So Johnny's been great. But Johnny's played half a season on pace for like 800 yards, 750 yards.
And I know that this is not a super popular name, but like Mike Gesicki had a 3-year stretch of really good receiving production. Get out of town.
Kick rocks.
Get out of town. 3 years. Get over 700 yards back-to-back years.
Kick rocks.
Come on.
No, that was the who's the Broncos running back that Broncos fans were losing their mind over last year? Jaleel McLaughlin?
Yeah.
It's one of those, somebody just has to have production type players. Mike was that for 4 years. Somebody has to catch the football. You're playing in the 21st century. He ran 2 routes, never broke a tackle in his single career.
Okay, Jonnu Smith runs screens and Tua dumps with the ball and he gets a bunch of yards. Like, what's the dynamic things that he's doing that isn't?
I know you just
Mike Gesicki had plays down the field.
You didn't put the word dynamic in a question of what's Jonnu doing.
He catches screen passes and creates yards after catch. Mike Gesicki was a ball winner down the field, man.
No, kick rocks.
Come on, we got to isolate Tyreek over. He'll draw attention. Tua will hold it. We'll get a slip screen and he'll run for a bunch of yards.
Okay, just because he tagged the Bills for a couple of slips.
We're not gonna, no, I'm not. It's not about that. It's about there's no respect for Mike Gesicki.
He just ran straight down the field and caught a 57-yard touchdown.
Oh, he's mossing dudes left and right, winning down the field.
Yeah,
if we're gonna poo-poo at
on that corner route on 3rd and 8 that they just had.
If we're gonna poo-poo on Gesicki's production, then I have words for Jonnu Smith, and I've been very kind to Jonnu Smith. But there's no way we could say he's been a better tight end than Mike Gesicki.
I can.
Oh, that's crazy.
I can.
That's crazy.
I can, because somehow Jonnu Smith's not a good blocker. He's a better blocker than Mike, too. That's part of the resume.
This is nuts.
He's a more versatile player. The only thing Mike can do is line up as 3 strong and run a seam. It's the only thing he can do. Congrats. Good job.
McMichael.
Outrageous.
Bruce Hardy. Charles Clay. Mike Gesicki. Whoever that other guy is.
Randy Jackson. The broadcaster.
Jonnu Smith is not a top 3 tight end.
Yeah, if he does this for 2 more years, then yeah, we're going to put him in that conversation. We didn't even mention Anthony Fasano.
All right. He signed a nice contract one time. I remember that.
A couple times. He couldn't get rid of him. Do we have any other takes, or is that it?
I'm good.
All right. That's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting of Cow Craps. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. We hope you enjoy Week 12. We will be back on Monday to break down all of the action as it unfolds. And, of course, we are on the doorstep of the next to last regular season week of the college football season, so lots to react to. We hope you will come back and see us on Monday.